So here on the channel today, recently I saw an article, I think it was on bleedingcool.com. They were talking about like 5 comic shops that had shut down recently. And we had talked on Thinking Critical about some of the issues and how many comic shops were we going to lose, kind of due to the pandemic and the shutdown that was caused by COVID-19, coronavirus. Obviously, that's still ongoing. I saw one of those shops was actually in Little Rock, Arkansas. I happen to know a couple of friends in Little Rock, Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini, and I reached out to Tim. I was like, hey, do you know anything about this? Why it happened? He said, why would you talk to me? You can talk to Michael Tierney, the owner of the 2 shops. And here you are. So I'm glad that you could make it here on the channel and just kind of talk about all the things that ended up leading up to you. You're not shutting down. You're just closing your brick and mortar and you're moving towards an e-commerce site.
Right. I'm not going out of business. I'm just changing the way I do business. And everything's just been shifting over to the e-commerce for a long time. And it's just one of those things. How long do you want to take a loss doing things the old way before you embrace the new technology? Now, it's rough to close down my stores, though. I've had one 38 years. The other one just started its 32nd year. I've actually had customers start crying when I told them, hey, I'm going to be gone by the end of the month there. Because, I've been a part of their lives. They've been a part of my lives so long. And it's going to be rough on me to no longer have that daily interaction with, this huge group of friends that come over every day to see me, and they pay me money. Of course, they take all my stuff too. But it's
yeah. You said you've known Tim and Mark since they were little kids, and now they're growing up. They're producing comic books on a yearly basis. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So you were a big part of that. Just the influence and your shop's influence on them certainly led to their being in the industry.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been an independent publisher and self-published for a long time. I don't do that anymore. Now I've got publishers to do all my work for me. I don't have to do that anymore, just to maintain control. But, so people are like, wow, you make your own comics. And so they come in and, children will show you this artwork. And one of the things you never do with a child is you never discourage them. What I do, I just say, okay, well, here's where you can improve. Here, this looks good. Now here's where take you to the next level. And 2 quick, easy lessons I'd always teach them: 2-point perspective and 3-point perspective. Something they don't seem to teach in art school. Even when you get into college, I've seen people come out of college didn't know how to do 3-point perspective. So I just give them a quick little easy art lesson, and next thing you know, they were just keep on producing it. I've had several customers go off to New York to art schools. One of them won an Eisner. Yeah, Nate Powell. He won an Eisner for the March comics with Senator Lewis.
So yeah, that's crazy. So your shops have been an integral part of the community. Are there other local comic shops in Little Rock, or were you the last 2?
Well, I've had probably 70 competitors in the Little Rock, North Little Rock area, but North Little Rock's where my other store's at. And I've had that one for, like I said, just started its 32nd year. I probably had 70 competitors over the last 38 years come and go. And, I've always stuck around. There's nobody right now. And that's the worst part of it. And, I really, wasn't really planning on being, going all to the mail order. What happened was, when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I've got a couple of months where I don't need to be working at the stores. My writing career has really taken off. I'm not even sure how many books I've had published in the last couple of years. And so I finished off another project that I've been working on for the Edgar Rice Burroughs people, got that turned in. And then I took on all these other writing projects. I have a series of novels I've been writing and publishing since the 70s. And so I committed to do 2 more novels for the Crossover people. And they tell me that I'm their top selling writer. And so I said, I get them 2 novels in 6 months. And we're just now finalizing. I think we've got the last bit of terms worked out on a contract we've been working on. My nonfiction publisher, Chenault and Gray, who published my Edgar Rice Burroughs 100-year art chronology a couple years ago. That was 4 volumes, 120,000 words, 5,000 images that I restored from 100-year-old pulps and things like that. And it gets all 5-star reviews on Amazon. Well, we've been talking to the Robert E. Howard people for a couple of years. We are just about to finally sign the contract. So, I committed to do that. And of course, they were, I was telling them it'd probably take me 2 years to do this big project on Robert E. Howard. And they're like, okay, we want it for sale in June of next year. So I didn't want to turn it down. And then all of a sudden, I'm thinking I got time to work on all this stuff. And then my help all was like, they got panicked when the pandemic hits. I don't think the pandemic was more panic-demic. But so they went looking for other jobs and thought, hey, the comic book industry is going away. Look at it. They're not even making comics anymore. And they got great paying jobs that paid them a lot of money that I couldn't match. And so all of a sudden here I committed to do 6 books in the next 12 months. And I'm working 2 stores by myself. That was kind of rough.
Yeah,
So
so you came back and everyone had kind of moved on because everyone got scared, probably went home, things like that.
well, in a way, sales actually went up when I first came back, but I was splitting my time between stores. And I think it was kind of like the thing with the toilet paper. Wait, but he's only open limited hours. We've got to get in there now. And sales did go up, but I'll tell you, they did not go up what they needed to. Because when Marvel started back up, DC started back up, when I placed my order, I thought, man, this is not enough books to get me through even the day of release. I've still got books sitting on the shelf. I mean, I would probably estimate maybe 1/3 of my walk-in traffic has come back from what it was before the pandemic hit, or rather before the shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
So what
lot.
did Yeah. So what did you end up having to do during the shutdown? Were you doing curbside? Were you able to do like by appointment, viewings where people come in, they could come get their
We
books,
were
or were
never
you
shut
just
down.
closed?
Yeah, we were
Just
never shut
closed down?
down. There was no quarantine in Arkansas. We were open for business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And a matter of fact, it was kind of funny because Marvel had a representative call me and ask, how I was dealing with the pandemic. I said, well, I'm open for business. I just need some books. Get me some books. And they were like,
So the shutdown of the industry is really what ended up affecting you.
you're right, because I was open for business. I was never hurt, and that way. And Marvel was calling me up and saying, "Well, you're the only guy in all of America who's open. You're the one store." Like, ma'am, I got 2 stores. You're the one store. Like, that's not a good sign when people are wanting to change your own words to fit a narrative. Like, okay, there's only the one guy who's open in all of America, and like there were 8 states that were not in quarantine. I was in one of them, and but then as far as they were concerned, they weren't. There weren't any other stores, and to me that was kind of a warning sign. And then when all of a sudden they started switching all these books to digital, all of a sudden they started, canceling a lot of variants, which that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They needed to do that. But, the whole thing on top of that was that they took 1 month's worth of books and, okay, that's going to be all the books for the next 4 months. Basically, they took every retailer in America and put us on a supermodel diet where, somebody gives you a green pea, tells you that's your food for the week. Don't overindulge. How are you supposed to live on that? So what they were doing to us is just this is a big warning sign, and so I don't see that Marvel's got the investment into print. DC, everybody's worried about DC being the first one to leave the direct market alerts, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to get you books." As soon as they said they were going to ship with other distributors, I signed up. Now I won't tell you what my account number is, but I will say it includes the number 2. So I was on there fast. I mean, the day they said they were doing it, I signed up both my stores, and they've done great by me. I mean, I have had 100% fill, super easy to pack. I've got a fellow working for me part time right now. He helps about maybe 2 or 3 days a week. He's got another job, but so he was watching, help me unpack there, and it's like I said, look at the difference between these UCS guys who I'm using and the Diamond. The UCS guy, they were all the books and titles were packed together. They were all in great shape. It took minutes to unpack a box from them. Then you get to the Diamond boxes. And Diamond, I'm not kidding you, they take a deck of cards and they shuffle them. That's what they do with the comics. I mean, you could have 3 copies of a book. If you got 3 boxes, they're going to be like a Vegas dealer, put 1 in each box. I mean, it's just like they just mix them up as bad as they can. You cannot even start counting until you unpack every single box, scatter them all out, and then try to put the jigsaw puzzle back together again. I mean, it's almost like they're trying to make life difficult on you. I don't think they are. I just don't think they know what they're doing.
So you said you never really had those issues until you actually switched warehouses. You said once you were serviced in New York, and you had great service from Diamond. Once they switched you to another office or warehouse, that's when your issues started happening with Diamond?
Yeah, I used to get my orders fulfilled out of Plattsburgh, New York from Diamond. And those guys are fantastic. They do a great job. They're kind of like the UCS guys. They keep your quantities together. They don't give you a whole lot of boxes. I had to pay for a dumpster on a monthly basis just to fill it up with the packing that Diamond was charging me freight to send me with. I mean, when I went from Plattsburgh over to Olive Branch, my freight charges increased by like 400%. I mean, it was insane because I was paying for all this packing. Olive Branch, because they said, well, you're closer to Olive Branch, you got to go with those guys. And, it'd be cheaper for you. Well, it was quite the opposite because, recently I got in 90 copies of an issue of Batman. So that filled up like half a box. Then they took 1 copy and put it in a box by itself loaded with packing. It doesn't make a lick of sense. So every week I was sending them pictures. Here's what you're doing to me on packing. And they keep saying they're going to give me credits, but then I just get these super high bills. I don't see any credits. And they say, okay, all the damages shortage, we're not going to charge you shipping. But I mean, with the bills I'm paying, I am not seeing any savings from those guys. I mean, they're just eating me alive and freight money. And so, getting them shipped out of New York was a lot cheaper and getting them shipped 3 hours away from Olive Branch, Tennessee.
So it's crazy. So if you think if you would have had even choice within Diamond, that would have helped you out, where you didn't have to go with the Olive Branch, if you could have stuck with the Plattsburgh branch in New York, that
Right.
your business might still be open, brick and mortar, might not have to move to
I would
e-commerce.
say, I mean, Olive Branch was worse on my business than the pandemic. I mean, Olive Branch, I mean, my quantities kept going down because every week it's anywhere. I mean, a good week was 7% shortages. Most weeks, 17 to 25% damages shortages. And then, like I say, all those single books in a box. I mean, they were just eating me alive. And this was happening on 2 stores. And the bad thing about it was when they'd short one store a title, they'd short the other store a title. So my competitor would have them, and then I wouldn't have any at all. And I know what was happening because I toured the Olive Branch warehouse. It's this gigantic place, and I mean, you think you're going to find the Ark of the Covenant off in the corner. I mean, it's that big. But they do what they call touchless packing. In other words, they don't go by a sheet of paper and like that. The packer will walk around with a headset on, little sensors on their fingers, and the computer's talking to their ear, telling, okay, go to aisle 7, bin 3, pull 5 copies. Well, they get the bin, it's empty. They just kept going. No stop flag. Hey, we need to get some more here. They just keep going. Well, my account numbers are like back to back, and my store name's almost the same. So, bam, here they come around again. Oh, still empty. He's not getting it again. And they just never would flag it. I mean, you want to hear something amazing? This week's shipment, after they lost DC, was the first decent shipment I've had since I've been at Olive Branch. I had one store that was completely shorted on one big title, Superman, and the other store was like shorted one book. I've never had it that good. So it's something that could have been fixed a long time ago. Maybe this week was a fluke, but I mean, this was the best packed week I've had from Diamond since I've been at Olive Branch. And when it happens after they lose DC.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I saw, when I was reading the article, it sounded like the comic shop in Las Vegas was specifically shutting down because I think they said it was over a 5 or a 10 year period, their rent had gone from $4,200 a month to like $8,400 a month. So it doubled, in a very short amount of time. Have you found that, the cost of maintaining and keeping brick and mortar open has become cost prohibitive for the product that you're selling?
Now, I had good rent situation because one store I was renting from a very good brother and sister combo. I mean, they were the best landlords you could ask for. I'd been at that location 30 years. I'd seen like 3 increases, and they weren't that large. I mean, they took very good care of me. They liked me. They liked my stores. They wanted to keep me around, and they hated to see me go. My other location, I bought the building. I was in control there.
Mm-hmm.
I was my own tenant, and so I had rent control on that location. But that aside, everything else keeps going up. Credit cards. Back when you had to do the old manual chunk and have to call in to get approval, they didn't charge you hardly anything. And it was so labor intensive for them and us. At the end of the day, then you had to take all the sheets, take it to the bank. They had to manually process it to get it into your account. Now it's as easy as can be. You just swipe a card through a machine, and everything just goes zip, zip, zip through all these machines. But every machine has to take a piece of that charge. Every machine it runs through, takes a little bit out of your account. And it's kind of like the mob. Everybody's got to get their beak wet. And there's just nothing left for the retailer. Used to, back in like the 80s when I started out, if you had a 2% profit margin, you were doing pretty good. That was considered a success. Nowadays, that won't even pay the credit card bill. And that's just to accept credit cards as a form of payment. Then you look at payroll. Wages are just going through the roof. I know most of the stores in Seattle where they raised the $15 an hour, they're all gone. That's where some of the oldest stores in the country were. And all those older stores are gone. I mean, there was like Xanadu. I think he had 4 stores, went down to 1. I read an interview with him where he was saying there was just nothing left for him after he got done paying the wages. So all the expenses keep going up. Our margins haven't changed with the distributors. And then you have really poor service if you're coming out of Olive Branch, which it just makes it where you're losing your customers or you're getting stuff late or then you missed your chance to sell it. I mean, the retailers, we're just getting the thumb screws put onto us, and they just keep tightening all the time. And it's really hard to do brick and mortar. So at some point, I'm just kind of like, well, let me just do what makes money and get rid of the things that just keep costing me. How long do you want money at something?
So you would say that the poor service out of Diamond, always not having all your comics, even the ones that you do have being damaged that you couldn't sell, you had to send back, that ended up eventually atrophying your client list because they would come in and they wouldn't have the comics that they were looking for.
Well, the damages weren't that bad. It was the shortages. The shortages were just keeping me alive. And, a satisfied customer is going to buy a whole lot more than a frustrated one. Oh, if you come back next week, maybe we'll have it then. Oh, okay, maybe another week we'll maybe get it. And, people just get sick of it. And they go somewhere else, or they just give up the hobby. I've seen a lot of that. People they get frustrated. And like I said, a satisfied customer will buy so much more than a frustrated one. And, it's really hurt the industry quite a bit. Now, like I say, there are other branches of Diamond that are real good. I'm not trying to dog on Steve Jeffy. I think Steve Jeffy's a good guy. I'm friends with him. I'm on his board of advisors on the Overstreet Price Guide. But that olive branch, I have sent pictures to everybody up there and this and that, and they're always like, "Oh, we're going to fix it," and nothing ever changes.
Yeah, one of the retailers on the channel.
Pictures of bad boxes and bad packing, and I don't think they like me over in Olive Branch because I'm complaining all the time about them. They actually, I think, sent me what might be considered a horse's head in the mail one time. I got this envelope, and the reason I know it came from Olive Branch is because it got torn up at the Memphis post office, and they said, "Oh, this package was actually damaged in Memphis," and inside was nothing but a bunch of torn up comics, not from any one time period, just like you just grabbed a few books from different time periods from somebody's collection, ripped off the covers, ripped the books in half, stuffed it in an envelope, and mailed it to me. I'm like, I don't know what kind of message they're sending me, but and once my Diamond rep just happened to make a visit like a week later. I was like, "You want to explain this to me?" And he took it back with him. Well, somebody must have got our envelope and done that. I said, why? Why would anybody do that? So that's never been explained to me. I just don't know what's going on over there at Olive Branch. There's some weird stuff over there.
One of my retailers that comes on the show, he's his comic shop is in the, I believe it's in the Knoxville area in Tennessee, and he said that he's had $45,000 worth of shortages in comics he had to have returned over a 5-year period.
Yeah,
it's debilitating for his business.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, Olive Branch, that's a huge warehouse. See, and the problems with Olive Branch started from day one because and Steve Jeffy, this was a noble thing he did when all the comic book distributors started collapsing. Well, he took over their debt because he knew if they didn't pay their debts, all of a sudden all these comic book stores, or not stores, but publishers would go out of business, and that would just cripple the comic book industry. So he bought all these failing, distributors, took on their debts, and one of them was Capital City, who had just built a brand new state-of-the-art warehouse in Sparta, Illinois, where all the comics were once printed on old letterpress. Now, do you know what a letterpress printer is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an old,
Yes.
And
plates and everything.
Printing they do now, and they were all printed at a place called World Color Press, and World Color saw the writing on the wall, so they sold it to a employees union, and all they printed were just all the comics. Well, then when all of a sudden the comics started going on offset printing, which is what opened up the opportunity to go to digital, and offset printing required higher paper, and that's when the cost of printing comics all of a sudden just skyrocketed because the quality improved, because you weren't printing on cheap pulp paper on letterpress. All of a sudden, you could have those great computer colored images. That's what all of a sudden just really jumped up the price of comics. And but it put World Color Press out of business, and here you had this huge state-of-the-art warehouse which was the main hub for all of Capital City to process all their orders in a place where there were no more books being printed. And when Steve bought that, he just moved that down to Olive Branch to make that his main hub. Well, none of the people in Sparta wanted to go to Memphis, Tennessee area, so he had to get all brand new crew and everybody like that. So you just kept waiting for them to get it sorted out, get some decent people in, but they just could never get their act together.
So, in your mind, was your transition from having a brick and mortar, two comic shops in Little Rock, to being strictly an e-commerce site fulfilling orders through mail and via the email, was that always a natural progression of your business that just got sped up because of some of these factors? Or do you think these factors like the pandemic, the issues with the Olive Branch, are they the reasons that you had to do it?
Well, I've always been doing that. I've always been selling online. I've always been doing mail orders as long as I've been in business. All these other factors did accelerate it into it. And actually what I thought was going to be done, I thought I was just going to sell my stores to another individual. So my lease was expired. Here all my help was gone. My lease was expiring at one location. I owned the other building, and I was talking to an agent. I said, well, I've got a pretty good location here. Just put it on the market, but don't put a sign out front. Just see what we can do. Bam! Had 2 offers the first day. So people wanted to buy my building. I was like, well, there's no reason to stay in this anymore. And so as the negotiation went back and forth with 2 buyers, then the people I was talking to about maybe buy my businesses, they were like, yeah, we want to do it. No, we don't. Okay, now we do. No, we don't. And so I said, okay, when this contract gets signed, all the contingencies have been removed. That's when I got to know. And they're like, no, we don't want to. Well, that was like a week ago, or not just last Thursday. I mean, so that just happened. And so all of a sudden I'm leaving and I'm like, wow, I can't tell all my customers that, hey, you're twisted away. You can't get your books anymore. And so that's why I said, well, I'm already doing the mail order. I mean, just offer it to all my reserve customers. And I'm stunned how many people say, yeah, I want to go with you. Just mail me my books. And actually, there's been a lot of them who said, wow, I didn't know that was an option. That would be better for me. So I think it's a way a lot of the market has been transitioning. So, it just kind of fell into place that way. And, I just could not leave all my customers that, been counting on me to supply their weekly fix, without, taking it away from them there and not giving them another option. And they all said, we want to stick with you and we want to keep on having you ship us our books. So, I've had so many customers. I never really promoted my mail order. I've had so many customers move away over the years I've been in business. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to be within a block of this other comic book store. I'll be good. And then a month later, they call you up, start mailing me. We spoil them. And so, they just, I'm happy to take care of my friends.
Well, I do appreciate all the time and information today, Michael. I do have one last question. So was there anything special that you are going to do for the people in Little Rock since they no longer, you won't be able to go into your store? Are they going to get special delivery? Are you still going to go through the post office? Is it, you're going to do anything different on your hustle locally?
Well, I mean, there are a few that, I'll if they want to come pick them up, I'll be able to do that for them. But I've got ways to, ship them where I can save some money. I've never had damages. That's one thing everyone's always worried about. What about packages get damaged, or they got a gorilla for a mailman? And I've only, in all my years, all this time I've been doing it, I've only ever had 2 packages get damaged. And both of those were going to Italy when I had a customer stationed over there for 1 year. It just, Italy, I don't know what it is with it. I've talked to other people who are like, yeah, Italy. So
I believe it.
yeah, that's going to give me more opportunity to work on my creative projects and my writing and this, that. Did Tim and Mark tell you anything about those?
No, they just kind of introduced. I didn't even realize that you were a published writer.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, I've been independently published since '77, and just this last year, I had this is the omnibus of the. I told you about my series of Wild Stars comics. This is the omnibus that just came out.
Wow!
They've just done a second printing of it, and what this has in it is it started out as novels, then I went over to comics, and then now I'm back to doing it as novels again. But this omnibus has everything published since I started doing them in '82. So it's a combination of pages of art, text, 4 books in here, and this is a lot of work. And the next 2 novels of this for Crusova was one of the 6 projects I'm going to do. I'm almost through with the first one already. So that's something I've been working on all my life there. And so I do both fiction and nonfiction. So that's like I told everybody, even if you don't go with a mail order with me, depending on what you read, we'll still maybe stay in touch. I also do a weekly online comic strip too. I told you about how I did that Edgar Burroughs art chronology. Well, I do a weekly strip for them that I write, color, and letter called Beyond the Farthest Star. So between my Wild Stars and Beyond the Farthest Star, I'm always working in the stars.
Well, if you're watching this and you're interested in those projects, there will be links in the video description below so that you can find that omnibus and also where his weekly comic strip is. Michael, thank you so much for being very gracious with your time and, kind of giving me the 401 and all the information on why you had to make the transition, all the impacts from the pandemic, some of the issues that you've had with Diamond. And I do appreciate all the information.
Yeah. The bottom line, I think the comic book industry, the comic book medium is so underachieved. I mean, it's a great medium. It's got some of the best fans in the world. They're very, enthusiastic about it and very faithful to it. And we just need an industry that realizes that and takes care of them. And I think, there's some people who want to do that. And competition is a good thing. I think having these new distributors that compete with Diamond is going to help in the future.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.